whenever we get off rhythm, get back on rhythm, get back on track. And I think that's the next part of my game I'm trying to evolve is whenever it's either we're stagnant or some adversity comes, then being able to get back on track.
Do you feel like you've shown up through your starts, through the league that you're a franchise quarterback, not just here, but anywhere?
If anybody out there, give me one example. How long has Scott Petrak been covering the Browns?
20 years, 25 years.
Give me one example of Scott Petrak in 20 years asking a gotcha question. All right? And people were like, Bull, you're just defending the media. Jason, who craps on the Cleveland media more than me?
Nobody.
Nobody, all right? I could be a total D-bag to people in the Cleveland media. If I think a media man or woman asks a stupid question, I will be the first one to say it. He was giving Shedeur a layup.
Yep.
He tried to alley. That's what Scott Petrak did. Scott Petrak was alley-ooping Shedeur, and Shedeur blocked the ball. That's what happened. Now, it's not that big a deal, but Scott Petrak was giving Shedeur a chance to say, of course, doesn't every quarterback want their coach to be aggressive?
Whenever we get off rhythm, get back on rhythm, get back on track. And I think that's the next part of my game I'm trying to evolve is whenever it's either we're stagnant or some adversity comes, then being able to get back on track. Buckle up, because this is about to get real. So don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's begin. What you just witnessed wasn't a normal press conference. That wasn't some routine post-game interview where a rookie quarterback runs through the usual cliches and thanks his coaches. No, what just happened in Cleveland was a pressure cooker moment, and Shedeur Sanders just walked out of it without a single burn. Let me set the stage for you, because if you don't understand the context, you won't fully appreciate what Shedeur just pulled off. This man is a rookie, a two-year-old kid trying to find his footing in the most unforgiving league on the planet. He's learning a new offense. He's adjusting to NFL speed. He's building chemistry with receivers he just met months ago. That alone is hard enough. But on top of all that, the entire media machine is circling him like sharks smelling blood in the water. They came into that room with one goal: get Shedeur to slip. Get him to say something about Mike McDaniel. Get him to throw Kevin Stefanski under the bus. Get him to give them a headline that blows up the locker room and dominates the news cycle for a week. And make no mistake, they were fishing hard. Question after question, they dangled the bait. They asked about the coaching rumors. They asked about offensive inconsistency. They poked at the dysfunction. They wanted Shedeur to crack, but he didn't. He didn't just dodge the questions, he redirected them. He didn't just stay professional, he made the media look desperate. Every time they tried to corner him, he flipped the script. He kept his composure. He protected his teammates. He protected his coaches. And he did it all without sounding rehearsed or robotic. That's not normal for a rookie. That's not even normal for a 10-year veteran. Now here's where this gets even crazier. While Shedeur is sitting in that chair handling landmine questions, reports are swirling everywhere that Mike McDaniel, the offensive genius from Miami, is already being lined up to replace Stefanski. Insiders are whispering the front office is allegedly preparing for a full regime change. This isn't speculation or off-season chatter. This is happening right now, in real time, while Shedeur is trying to develop as a quarterback. Think about that for a second. How is a two-year-old supposed to grow when his entire coaching staff might be gone in 3 weeks? How do you build chemistry with a system that might not even exist next season? How do you block out the noise when the noise is literally about your future? And yet somehow Shedeur is handling this better than most veterans ever could. The question is, why? What does he know that we don't? And what does this tell us about the kind of quarterback he's becoming? Let's talk about what Shedeur Sanders has actually shown us on the field, because the tape doesn't lie. Forget the last name for a second. Forget who his father is. Forget the Colorado drama and the pre-draft narratives. Just watch the film. Watch how this kid operates in the pocket. Watch his eyes. Watch his feet. There's something there that you can't teach. Shedeur isn't just surviving in the NFL. He's processing. He's going through his progressions. He's reading coverages pre-snap and adjusting post-snap. When the first option isn't there, he's not panicking. He's not bailing, he's working to his second read, his third read, taking the check down when that's the right play. That's not rookie behavior. That's veteran discipline. And here's what caught my attention in that press conference. When they asked Shedeur about how opposing teams view him, he said something real. He said teams definitely respect me in the passing game. Now, some people might hear that and think it's cocky, but that's not arrogance, that's awareness. That's a quarterback who's studying film, who's seen how defenses are scheming against him, and who's confident enough to acknowledge it out loud. You don't say something like that unless you've earned it. You don't say that unless you've seen the proof on tape. But here's the frustrating part. The national media still hasn't fully bought in. Too many analysts still look at Shedeur and see Deion's son before they see a legitimate NFL quarterback. They reduce him to a storyline instead of evaluating him as a player. They focus on the circus instead of the craft. But inside that building, inside the film room, the respect is real. You can hear it in how Shedeur talks about his coaches. You can see it in how his teammates respond to him. The people who actually work with him every day, they know what they have. And when the media tried to bait him into commenting on his franchise quarterback status, Shedeur didn't bite. He said, "I can't be accountable for somebody else's decisions." Read that again. That's not deflection, that's protection. He's drawing a clear line between what he can control and what the front office decides to do. He's separating himself from the chaos. He's securing his future, no matter which direction Cleveland goes. That's not a rookie answer. That's a calculated, intelligent, franchise-level response. Based on what we saw in this press conference alone, not the stats, not the wins and losses, just the way Shedeur handled himself, the way he spoke, the self-awareness he displayed, he's already thinking like a franchise quarterback. The real question isn't whether Shedeur is ready. The question is whether Cleveland is smart enough to treat him like one. Because if they're not, if they fumble this, someone else will gladly take him off their hands. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns organization, because what they're doing to Shedeur Sanders right now is borderline criminal. This franchise has a history, and not the good kind. We've watched Cleveland cycle through quarterbacks like they're disposable. We've watched them mismanage talent, botch draft picks, and create chaos where there should be stability. It's been decades of dysfunction. And just when you think they might finally be turning a corner, just when they might have found their guy in Shedeur Sanders, here comes the circus again. Kevin Stefanski is coaching for his job every single week. That's not speculation. That's reality. Reports from Ian Rappaport and other insiders are already swirling that Mike McDaniel is being lined up as the next head coach. The front office may have already made their decision. They're just waiting for the season to end before pulling the trigger. Think about what that does to a locker room. Think about the tension that creates every player, every coach, walking around knowing that none of this might matter in a few weeks. How do you prepare for a game when you don't know if your position coach will be here next month? How do you build chemistry in a system that might get thrown in the trash? And Shedeur said it himself. Listen to this quote again. "Half of us don't know if we're going to be here next year." That's not media spin. That's a player pulling back the curtain and showing you exactly what it's like inside a dysfunctional franchise. That's brutal honesty. That's the reality of playing for the Cleveland Browns in 2024. This kind of uncertainty destroys teams. It makes players stop fighting. It makes coaches lose authority. The entire organization fractures because nobody knows what's coming. We've seen it happen before. Locker rooms check out. Veterans start protecting themselves. Young players get lost in the shuffle. But here's what's remarkable, and this is important. The Browns haven't done that. Not yet. Despite all the noise, despite all the rumors, Shedeur said they're still playing for the franchise. They're still playing for the names on the front and back of the jersey. That's not nothing. That's leadership. That's culture being held together by the players themselves. And that's what makes this so frustrating. The Browns are asking a 22-year-old rookie quarterback to hold together a locker room that ownership has essentially abandoned. They're asking him to block out the noise while they're the ones creating the noise. They're asking him to develop while they're tearing down everything around him. That's unfair. That's irresponsible. And honestly, Shedeur Sanders deserves so much better than this. But somehow, through all of it, he's still standing. And that tells you something about who he really is. There's something Shedeur Sanders said in that press conference that stopped me cold. When they asked him about handling the pressure and the noise, he said, "The pressure and attention, everything's been on me since I was a kid, since I was born. So it's just another year of it. Just another year of it." Sit with that for a second. This man has never known a moment of peace, never had a private failure, never had a quiet success. Being Deion Sanders' son means every throw you make at age 7 gets filmed. Every touchdown at age 12 gets posted. Every bad game at age 16 gets dissected. You don't get to be a normal kid learning a sport. You're primetime son from day one. Most people would crack under that weight. Think about it. How many sons of legends actually make it? How many get crushed by the expectations? How many develop massive egos to protect themselves, or become defensive, or just fold completely under the scrutiny? But Shedeur? He did something different. He developed this emotional armor without becoming cold. He learned to navigate the media circus without becoming manipulative or fake. He became a leader without desperately seeking the spotlight. That's not normal. That's not just maturity, that's a different level of mental engineering. And he's not doing this alone. When Shedeur mentioned that he talks to his father after every game, that hit different. That's a support system that most rookies would kill for. Deion Sanders has been through every level of this game. He's dealt with the media, he's handled the pressure, he's navigated the politics, he understands the business side that crushes most young players. Imagine having that voice in your ear after a tough loss. Imagine having someone who can decode the chaos you're experiencing because they lived it themselves. That's invaluable. That's the difference between drowning and swimming in these waters. But what really impressed me was Shedeur's self-awareness. When they asked about his biggest area for improvement, he didn't give some generic answer. He said, "When there is no play and I can't get out of it, I can't run. What am I going to do with the ball?" That's not coach speak. That's not deflection. That's a young quarterback who's been in the film room, who's studied his own tape, who knows exactly where his game needs work. He's identifying the precise moments where elite quarterbacks separate themselves when the play breaks down, and you have to create magic from nothing. That's PhD level self-scouting from a rookie. This is what people don't understand about Shedeur Sanders. The pressure that would destroy most quarterbacks, it created him. The scrutiny that would make others crumble, it sharpened him. The expectations that would suffocate normal players, they became his oxygen. Shedeur Sanders didn't just survive the pressure, he was forged by it. And that's exactly the kind of quarterback you build a franchise around. The question is whether Cleveland understands what they have. So let's address the Mike McDaniel situation head on. Because whether Browns fans want to admit it or not, this is probably happening. And you know what? It might be exactly what Shedeur Sanders needs. Think about McDaniel's system for a second. Quick timing, precision passing, schemed open receivers, motion and misdirection that creates easy throws. This isn't just an offense, it's a quarterback development machine. It's designed to make decisions simple, to create rhythm, to build confidence throw by throw. Look what McDaniel did with Tua Tagovailoa. Remember where Tua was 2 years ago? People were calling him a bust. Analysts were writing him off. The Dolphins themselves were trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. Then McDaniel shows up and suddenly Tua's dropping 400-yard games, leading the league in passer rating, looking like the quarterback Alabama fans always knew he could be. Now imagine what that system could do for Shedeur. A quarterback who already processes quickly, who already shows precision in the short to intermediate game, who already understands timing and rhythm. McDaniel could take those natural gifts and amplify them. He could mask the weaknesses while the strengths explode. We might be looking at a star in the making. But, and this is important, there's real risk here too. Coaching changes are disruptive. New playbook, new terminology, new relationships with position coaches. Everything Shedeur has learned, every bit of chemistry he's built, every adjustment he's made to NFL speed, it could all get reset to zero. And listen to how Shedeur talked about Stefanski in that press conference. I'm truly thankful that I was able to come here. I'm thankful that I do have a relationship with all the coaches. That wasn't fake. That was genuine appreciation from a player who values stability, who's just starting to find his rhythm, who doesn't want to start over. This is where Cleveland needs to be really, really careful. Because we've seen this movie before. The Browns have a long, painful history of letting young quarterbacks walk, of mismanaging talent, of prioritizing short-term fixes over long-term building. They've fumbled away potential franchise quarterbacks while chasing the next shiny object. If they do that with Shedeur, if they mess this up and he becomes a star somewhere else, it will haunt this franchise for the next decade. Cleveland fans will watch him throw touchdowns in another uniform and wonder what could have been. Again. But here's what gives me hope. Shedeur Sanders is doing everything right. He's blocking out the noise. He's studying film. He's building relationships. He's leading a fractured locker room through pure force of will. He's showing you exactly what a franchise quarterback looks like, even in the middle of organizational chaos. Now it's on the Browns to match that commitment, give him stability, give him support, give him a real chance to become what we all know he can be. Whether it's with Stefanski, McDaniel, or someone else entirely, Shedeur Sanders is going to be special in this league. The only question is whether Cleveland is smart enough to keep him,